And I have been reading about this dispute between Ahmaud Arbery's family, or at least his mother, it seems like, or one side of his family, and the 223 Foundation, which is this foundation that was created really to get justice for Ahmaud Arbery and also to facilitate, as I understand it, uh, the reduction in racial inequities in the United States. And I really wanted to just talk a bit about what's happening with these two entities, these two parties, and what entrepreneurs can learn from this dispute, because this is something that it's really disheartening. So, litigation is always hard. When people are arguing, it's always kind of a tough thing. But with this situation in particular, I think there's so much that if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a person who goes viral, that you need to know from this situation. And this gives us an opportunity to talk about it with some facts that are pretty relatable, because we all know what happened with Ahmaud Arbery. So if you don't know what happened with Ahmaud Arbery, he was killed by two men, and there was a third who was kind of watching and following along a year ago on February 23rd, 2020. And the thing about his murder is that it became a national movement, kind of like what we saw with George Floyd, kind of like what we saw with Trayvon Martin. There's too many names to name, right? But the thing about this, and this is the thing that I think is so important for entrepreneurs, you are never ready to go viral, ever. And you hope you don't go viral for something like this, especially not like the death of a loved one, the death of somebody you know or you care about. And so the thing about it is, when you do go viral, or when you do get a big platform, or when you do just end up with some issues around your trademarks and your picture, your image, and all that kind of thing, there's some things you have to think about. And I just want to give people some advice about this. And I'm not going to be on very long, but I've been watching the news and seeing what's happening. And I want to just recap a little bit for all of you what is happening specifically with Ahmaud Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, and then the 223 Foundation. So Wanda Cooper Jones, who's the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, is upset because there's this organization, the 223 Foundation, who she says violated a contract they made with her in September. And basically this contract, according to her lawyer, Esley Merritt, at least what we can see on social media, obviously, I don't know these folks. I don't know really what's happening behind the scenes, but they had some kind of agreement that apparently the 223 Foundation said they would no longer use Ahmaud's likeness. So your likeness can be like your name, your picture, your story, that kind of thing. And what happened a couple of days ago on February 23rd, 2001, is this nonprofit, the 223 Foundation, started raising money. They got donations on the first anniversary of Ahmaud Arbery's death. They got like more than $200,000. And the mom got pretty upset about that. This is a very sensitive topic. Obviously, it really hasn't been that long. A year is not that long when you've buried a child. I cannot even imagine what that's like. And so she sent a cease and desist letter through her lawyer. And, well, a cease and desist tweet. I don't know if they actually sent a letter too. But at any rate, they say in this tweet that the 223 Foundation is causing confusion, public confusion about where this money is going and blah, blah, blah. And they posted this tweet where they said, "Attention America," or "Good Morning America," something like that. "You were robbed of like more than $200,000 from this foundation, the 223 Foundation." And this foundation, according to this tweet, they say is pretending like they support the family, but they're just trying to raise money. And then it turned into like a social media back and forth, because then the foundation posted this long thing on Facebook where they said, "Yo, look, we are not trying to take advantage of anybody. We support Ahmaud Arbery, and his father knows what we're doing. His cousin knows what we're doing. And we just want to support the cause. We want to eliminate racial injustice in the United States," and all that. And so there's some important things for entrepreneurs that I want to share with you that we can learn from this situation, which is a very, very difficult set of circumstances. And here's why I think we need to learn from it. So the first thing is, you never know when you might go viral. Hopefully you go viral for a good thing that's good for your business and all that. You might go viral for something that's not that great for you, or something that's horrible like death. And we cannot predict any of this stuff when you go viral. But when you get a ton of attention, a couple of things typically happen. The first thing is, some people will try to take advantage. And so the second thing is, some people will try to help. And you have to figure out how you're going to manage all that. And the third thing that will happen is, you're going to get some opportunities and you have to figure out what you're going to do with them. So, hey, Kanika, hey, Patty, Digital Nista, the Parents Fitness Coach. Hey, everybody who's joining on Instagram. So I'm talking about Ahmaud Arbery and what we can learn from this dispute that's happening between his mother and the 223 Foundation. And they've been back and forth for the past couple of days about an intellectual property dispute that I think we could learn a lot from. Because when you blow up overnight, which I know there's no such thing as overnight success, but when you go viral, when you start getting a lot of attention, there will be people who try to help you, there will be people who try to harm you, and there will be opportunities that come your way. So we got to figure out how you can take advantage of the good things and protect yourself from the bad things. And so here are a couple of the things that happened shortly after Ahmaud Arbery was murdered in February of 2020. So this foundation, the 223 Foundation, registered a trademark called I Run with Maud. And this caused an issue with his mom and maybe some other members of his family in 2020, because they tried to register this trademark using his name, I Run with Maud. And it turned out that they ended up assigning the trademark to Ahmaud Arbery's mother. And so assigning means they gave away all the trademark rights to Ahmaud Arbery's mom. And so that's one dispute. There's a dispute about trademarks. The second dispute they're having is about something called the right of publicity. And the right of publicity basically is like your rights to make money and your right to share and commercialize on your name, your likeness, and lots of things about you. And these are two things. I don't care if you are famous. I don't care if you go viral. I don't care if you're just an everyday, ordinary entrepreneur. These are things that are going to show up in your business. And so let's talk about the trademarks first. So oftentimes when people go viral, or if you have a business, even if you don't go viral, there are a couple of things that happen pretty quickly. There's some things you should do if you're going to in some way think that this is going to become a big thing or a platform or whatever. Sometimes people like run out and register domain names before you. This happened with the Where the Money Reside dude. Somebody went out and bought his domain name before he did. She ended up giving it to him, but at any rate, that happens. Sometimes people do it because they want to help you. Sometimes they do it because they are trying to capitalize off of your brand and the thing that happened with you. And so that's one thing, domain names. Sometimes people register trademarks. I actually wrote an article about this some years ago that got a whole lot of traction, because this happens a lot when people go viral. Folks will run out and try to register the trademark because they want to capitalize on it, or maybe they want to try to sell it to you. There's all kinds of like crazy things that can happen. Oh, sorry, I got a phone call, Instagram. So that can happen. People can try to buy your domain names. They can try to register your trademarks before you. They might try to set up GoFundMes and raise money in your name. It could be any number of things that happen. But where this really comes into play with your business and your intellectual property is with trademarks. Because if you own the trademark, and you own the domain name, when something does happen, whether it's a movement or business opportunities or whatever, you own those things. You don't have to go out and try to get permission from somebody else or negotiate or haggle or whatever. So this is the first lesson from this whole dispute right now between Ahmaud Arbery's mother and the 223 Foundation, that like, there was already, it seems like, a little bit of situation there, because last year the foundation registered a trademark or applied for a trademark, and it will soon be registered called I Run with Maud, and they ended up assigning it to the mother. Now they seem to continue to use, some form of the name, or they're raising money or whatever, and the mom thinks that's a problem. And whether it is or is not a problem, I don't know all the legal details or all the facts. But the trademark is important. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have some words or phrases that you say, or there's something that starts to get a lot of traction online, take that step if you think something will come out of it, and register that trademark, because if you don't, somebody else will. Now, sometimes the United States Patent and Trademark Office will take care of that for you. So when things go viral and lots of people file trademark applications, usually the trademark office says, no, you can't do that. This cannot really function as a trademark for a number of legal reasons. And the legal reason is called not functioning as a source. So if lots of people are using words and phrases because something has gone viral, it can't function as a trademark because so many people are using it, and there's no way to know who actually is the originator of a product or service using that name. So sometimes the trademark office will reject a trademark application if it's too popular, if something has gone viral. This happened a lot with Trayvon Martin. A bunch of people went out and tried to apply for federal trademarks using Trayvon Martin's name, and the trademark office refused just about all of them, except the trademark application filed by his mother for a specific thing. And so this happens with, no matter why you might go viral or get a huge platform. So you got to have a strategy for that really, really early in the game if you start to get attention, traction, whatever. And we hope you're never in a situation where it's because of some horrible reason, but I'm just saying this happens, and this is something you need to think about. And that happened here, where this organization, somebody from their organization got on the media or something and said, I run with Maud, or they created this whole movement, and it grew really, really, really quickly, and they registered the trademark, and they ended up in a little bit of a dispute, it seems, with Ahmaud Arbery's mother. So that's the first thing with your trademarks. If you don't already have your trademarks registered, please, please, please go ahead and do that, or talk to a trademark lawyer about when, where, and how is the best time for you to do that. I've got a ton of videos on YouTube about trademarks. I'll try to link to some of them so you can check those out. But just realize that when you go viral, when you blow up overnight, there will be people maybe who mean you harm, or maybe who want to help you, who might beat you to the punch. And so if there's a trademark, if there are domain names, if there are social media handles, you want to have a strategy pretty quickly around those things. Now, the other part of this dispute between Ahmaud Arbery's mother and the 223 Foundation revolves around the right of publicity. And the really interesting thing about the right of publicity, and ironic thing about the right of publicity, is Georgia's right of publicity is very, very robust. And there's been a lot of conversation about it because of people like Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his family have created an intellectual property strategy that is very, very tight, that has been created in a way that is intended to build generational wealth, so that his family controls the message, the image, the likeness, all of those things. And we see here Ahmaud Arbery's mom attempting to exert that same level of control over Ahmaud Arbery's likeness. Now, the 223 Foundation says, hey, but his dad is actually working with us. He knows about these things. And when Ahmaud Arbery died, both his mom and his dad received the right to, so I'm going to use the legal term, which is exploit his likeness. That sounds a little bad under this set of circumstances, because this young man is dead, but that's the legal term. So when you have a right of publicity, you have the single right to exploit your likeness, to commercialize your likeness. And once Ahmaud Arbery died, very similar to like when Martin Luther King Jr., when you die in Georgia, your right of publicity is just like any other piece of property, a house, a car, or whatever. It transfers to whoever your heirs are. And in this case, Ahmaud Arbery's parents got his right of publicity. And the right of publicity, again, protects things like your name and your likeness. So that could be your actual name, it could be a photograph, it could be anything that really kind of makes you you. And when you have that right of publicity, nobody else can use it without consent and for financial gain or like for some other reason. And the law there, again, because of Martin Luther King Jr. and the way he prepared before death and the way his family has enforced those rights, like they've done a really good job creating a strategy where they get to control what happens with Martin Luther King Jr.'s name. That's why when you watch any movie or any documentary, sometimes things are missing, and it's probably because the family or whatever controlling organization the family has designated did not like the terms, or they said, no, we just don't want our father's likeness or our relative's likeness to be used that way. So violating that in the state of Georgia, especially, like there can be some serious ramifications for that. And so that is Ahmaud Arbery's mom's complaint that, hey, you all are using my son's likeness without my consent. Now, this is complicated because both parents, the mom and the dad, have a right apparently to use Ahmaud Arbery's likeness. Again, I don't know any of the facts behind the scenes. This is just from the outside looking in. But the reason I want to talk to entrepreneurs about this is because the same thing can be true for you. With your business, with your brand around your business, you may, depending on the state you're in, have a right of publicity in your name and your likeness, which means other people cannot exploit your name and likeness for financial gain. Now, there's one limitation to this, though, and this is where there might be some complicating factors in this particular instance with Ahmaud Arbery and the 223 Foundation, because Georgia's right of publicity can be limited by newsworthiness. So if there's a matter that's of like public interest, people can talk about it in the news, they can write about it in the news, and that's not a violation of somebody's right of publicity. Now, it's a little complicated about what newsworthiness means and what things are prohibited or not, but that's one of the limitations. And when you have a right of publicity, usually if someone has used them wrongly, you get money. You get money for the damage they've caused you by using that name or likeness, that right of publicity without permission. And this comes up a lot when people go viral. This comes up a whole lot. So if you're an entrepreneur and you end up in this situation where you go viral or where lots of people are talking about you or whatever, these are two things to think about: your trademarks and your right of publicity. And I wanted to just talk about this briefly because a lot of times we read these things in the news, we don't really see how they're relevant to our day-to-day lives. But this situation in particular can have a ton of relevance to you, and there's just no way to predict when you may go viral or when you might not go viral, when you might have a big platform and when you don't. So it's really important to have a strategy for that. Now, I talk about these types of topics a lot where I combine the law and intellectual property and pop culture and what's happening in the news. And I typically hop on live on YouTube or I record something on YouTube. I'm using Instagram more. If you like these kinds of conversations, if you're learning from these kinds of conversations, let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments so that I can start talking about things that are relevant to you, to your business and that kind of thing. And I thank you all for listening. I did not really have a plan for this. This is something that I'm seeing more and more frequently, and I just had some thoughts about it and wanted to make sure that people who are starting businesses or growing brands or people who may just go viral overnight, you want to have a plan for these things so these types of disputes don't happen. Now, I hope Ahmaud Arbery's mom and the 223 Foundation can figure this out and work this out. It's always hard when people are arguing, especially about a loved one and a really traumatic situation. But this is why it's important to have a plan for these kinds of things, because you just never know what's going to happen. So I wish Wanda Cooper Jones, who is the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, the absolute best. The 223 Foundation seems to be doing really good work to promote racial justice. I've wished them the best too, and I hope they can come to an agreement that works for everybody under this set of circumstances. Thank y'all for watching.